Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In today's lesson, we are going to learn about فعل الأمر. فعل الأمر is another type of verb that exists in اللغة العربية. In the previous lessons, you have learned two types of verbs. The first one is الفعل الماضي, which is the past tense. And you have also learned the second type, which is الفعل المضارع, which is present tense. Yeah, so these are the two types of verbs that we have learned. Today we are going to learn the third type, which is فعل الأمر. So what is فعل الأمر? فعل الأمر, basically the word al-amr means command. So this is the verb that you want to use if you want to ask somebody to do something. Then you will have to use فعل الأمر. Yeah. So let us look at the فعل الأمر. Before we look at the تصريف or the conjugation, the verb conjugation of the فعل الأمر, I would like to tell you a few important things about فعل الأمر. Number one, فعل الأمر is directly related to الفعل المضارع, which means in order for you to discover the فعل الأمر for a verb, for a certain verb, you need to know the فعل مضارع of the verb. That is the first thing. Yeah, without knowing the فعل مضارع, it is a bit difficult, yeah, to figure out what is the فعل الأمر of the مضارع. So basically this is the فعل الأمر comes from فعل المضارع. That is the first thing. The second thing, when it comes to تصريف of the فعل الأمر, which means the verb conjugation, the changes that occur to the فعل whenever you use the فعل together with certain ضمير or certain pronouns. So what about the تصريف of فعل الأمر? If you still remember, when we talk about الفعل الماضي and الفعل المضارع, the verbs will change according to all 14 ضمير, to all 14 pronouns that we have learned. هو, هما, هم, هي, هما, هن, until أنا, and also نحن. Yeah. So for فعل ماضي and مضارع, you will have 14 forms of the verb. But for فعل الأمر, the ضمير that will be involved are أنت, أنتما, أنتم, أنتي, أنتما, and أنتن. That's all. Yeah. So what does it mean? It means that فعل أمر is only used for the ضمير أنت, you, أنتما, both of you, أنتم, all of you, أنتي, you for female, أنتما, both of you for female, and أنتن for all of you, yeah, for female. So we do not use فعل أمر for هو, for هما, for whom, for أنا, for نحن, and هي, هما, and also هن. Yeah. So these are the only ضمير that we used with فعل الأمر. With that, let us look at the تصريف. So here we will see the two things that I have mentioned just now, the relationship between فعل مضارع and فعل أمر. That is the first thing. And number two, the verb conjugation, the تصريف, yeah, the changes that you will have to make to the verb whenever you use different ضمير. Okay, we look at the first ضمير, which is the ضمير أنت. For the other verbs, normally we start with هو. For example, for فعل ماض, we say ذهب. We start with هو ذهب. For فعل مضارع, it is the same thing. We start with هو يذهب, yeah, followed by the other ضمير. But for فعل أمر, as I have mentioned just now, we cannot use هو. Then we will start with أنت. And the examples that you see here, this is for the verb ذهب. This is for the verb ذهب, which means to go. ذهب is in فعل ماض, he went. And what is the فعل مضارع? فعل مضارع for the word ذهب is يذهب. يذهب. So as I said, in order to know فعل الأمر, you must know فعل مضارع. Okay, فعل مضارع is يذهب. Now we look at the تصريف. In فعل الأمر, we start with أنت. يذهب, this is for هو. يذهب, هو يذهب, he goes or he is going. And when it is for أنت, then we say تذهب. تذهب, أنت تذهب. So we take this word, yeah, تذهب, and from here we change to فعل الأمر. And there are a few steps that you can follow, yeah, in order to change from تذهب to the فعل الأمر. But unfortunately, those steps will involve another lesson which you will learn later, and not in this course, of course. Okay, so here I will just give you the simple method, yeah, the simple method how to change from فعل مضارع to فعل أمر. Okay, first we look at the فعل مضارع for that ضمير أنت. أنت تذهب. Okay, next what do you do? Okay, for فعل أمر, remember, if you still remember, when we learn about الفعل مضارع, we said in فعل مضارع you have to add certain letters in front of the verb, and the letters are alif, nun, ya, and ta. So here the letter is a ta. So now, since we want to change to فعل أمر, the letter has to be dropped. You cannot use the letter anymore because this is the letter for the فعل مضارع. So for the أمر, we drop the letter. Yeah. So from تذهب, now it becomes ذهب. It becomes ذهب. Yeah. Okay, that is the first step. And the second step for فعل أمر, yeah, you have to change the ending of the verb. So here it is تذهب. The verb ends with a dhamma, تذهب. So what is the new symbol that you should use for فعل أمر? When it is for أنت, we will replace it to a sukun. Yeah. So instead of ذهب, it becomes ذهب. So that is the second step. Why do you change from this to this? This involves another lesson, yeah, that you will learn later. Okay, now this is the next step, or the second step. Okay, now when you reach here, when you reach this part, look at the word. Can you read the word? If you look at the word, it starts with a sukun. The first letter is with a sukun. So in Arabic, it is impossible to have it is not possible to have a letter that starts with a sukun. So if this happens, what do? You will have to add a letter in front of the sukun, the letter with the sukun, and the letter is an alif. Yeah, so you add an alif. Alif, zal, ha, ba. That is the third step. You add the alif. Okay, now, how do you read that alif? That is another thing that you need to know. How do you read the alif? This will depend on here. This will depend on the middle letter of the verb. The middle letter of the verb, which is here the letter ha. If this letter is with a fatha, yeah, if this is with a fatha, then you will have to read the alif with a kasrah. Okay, if this is with a fatha, this is with a kasrah. What if this middle letter is a kasrah, he? What about the alif? The alif is also read with a kasrah, e as well. Yeah. So for two conditions. First, if the middle letter is with a fatha, ha, then the alif is e. The second condition, if the second letter is with a kasrah, he, the alif is also with kasrah, e. But if the middle letter is with a dhamma, hu, for example, then the alif will be with a dhamma as well. So it is u. Yeah. So to make it simple, the alif that you add to the verb, okay, whenever there is a sukun, the alif has to be read e or u. How do you know which one do you use? It will depend on the middle letter of the verb. If it is ha or he, then the alif is always e. But if this is hu, then the alif is u. Alright? So from here we get the فعل أمر, which is idhab. Alright, that is for the ضمير أنت. Now we go to the ضمير أنتما. Okay, for the ضمير أنتما, again we look at the مضارع for أنتما. What is the مضارع for أنتما? أنتما تذهبان. So from the verb تذهبان, we want we want to get the fi'l amr. And of course here the word is already given to you, it is idhaba, but we want to know the process, yeah, the simple process. How do we change from tazhabani to izhaba? We follow the process or the steps that we have mentioned just now. Number one, what you need to do is you remove the letter of mudari, which is the ta. So what is the new word that you get here? It is dhhabani, yeah, without the ta, dhhabani. The second step, okay, if you look at the word, this word starts with sukun, and as I mentioned earlier, it is not possible to have a word that starts with sukun because you cannot read this word. So what do? You will have to add an alif. So this alif is only there if the letter is not readable because it starts with the sukun. Okay, now with this alif, how do you read the alif? As we have mentioned just now, it will depend on the middle letter. If this is ha, then this is e. If this is he, this is also he. If this is hu, this is u. So here, because it is from izhaba, then the alif is similar. Izhaba. Okay, so that is the second step. Izhaba. Now, the final step. The final step, what we did here is we replace this. We change the ending. Yeah. For tadhabu, the dhamma is changed to a sukun. But for tadhabani, there is no dhamma. Tadhabani here, they ends with this. They ends with alif and nun. Yeah. For fi'l amar, what do we need to do is to drop the nun, to remove the nun. Only the nun, yeah, not the alif. Only the nun. So now we remove the nun from the fi'l amar, and this is what we get. Idhaba. Idhaba. Yeah. So initially it is tadhabani. We remove the ta, and we put an alif. Idhaban, and the nun, we drop the nun. So it becomes izhaba. Izhaba, this is fi'l amar. Yeah. To say go. Izhab, go, but this is for anta, you. For example, I say, Ya Ali, izhab. O Ali, go. Izhab ilal madrasa, go to school. But here, we use this for musanna, for two people. We say, Ya Taliban, or two students. Or Ya Ali and Hassan, or Ali and Hassan. Idhaba, idhaba ilal masjid. Go, both of you, go to the masjid. Idhaba. Al-an, for the damir antum. For the damir antum. The fi'l mudari' for antum is tadhabun. So what do you do? Okay, as what we have seen earlier, what do you do? First, you remove the ta, because this is the letter of mudari' and we do not need this in the amr. Next, after you have removed the ta, you look at the verb. Now the verb start with a sukun. What do you need to do? You have to add an alif. So now the new word is alif, zal, ha, ba, waw, and nun. Right? After you remove the ta and replace the ta with alif. Okay, that is the second step. Now the third step, you change the ending. Okay, the ending for anta, the ending is with a dhamma. We replace it with a sukun. For antuma, the ending is with alif and nun. So whenever you have this alif and nun, what you need to do is you remove the nun. But what about for antum? If you look at the word, the fi'l mudari' for antum, so it ends with this waw and nun. Yeah. So when a verb ends with waw and nun, and you want to change this to fi'l amar, what you need to do is you need to drop the nun as well, just like what we did in musanna. Tazhabani becomes izhaba, tazhabuna becomes idhabu. Okay, so we drop the nun, idhabu. That is the verb. Yeah, that is the fi'l amar. Izhabu, go. All of you, you have to go. But when it comes to how the spelling of the word izhabu, if you look at the word izhabu here, izhabu, we add additional alif at the end. Yeah, instead of waw and nun, instead of just remove the nun, you remove the nun and you add an alif. This alif, we do not read this alif. This is just a symbol used together with a verb. Yeah, when it ends with waw. And the reason is whenever you see this waw together with an alif, you will be able to know that this is actually a verb. Yeah. So izhabu, remove the nun, but don't forget to end the verb with an alif. Izhabu, you, all of you, go. Al-an for the domir anti. We want to say anti. You, Aisha. I want to ask Aisha. Aisha, idhab. How do I say idhab? No, I don't say idhab. Okay, what will happen to anti? Okay, we look at the fi'l mudari. Anti tadhhabina. As usual, what do? Remove the ta. And then after you remove the ta, you look at the word. It starts with this sukun. So it is impossible to read. Yeah. Therefore, we add alif in front of the verb tazhabina. You replace this with alif. Okay, that is the second step. And the third step, look at the ending. We need to change the ending of the verb. The verb ends with this ya and nun. Yeah, as what we have done to the verb that ends with alif and nun, and the verb that ends with waw and nun. We do the same thing to ya and nun, which is to remove or to drop the nun. Remove the nun. Yeah, the nun is not needed anymore. So, what is the new verb? The new verb is now alif, zal, ha, ba, and ya. So, you write the normal ya. And how do you read the verb? Ha. So, since the middle letter is ha, then the alif is always e. Izhab, and because of ya, and the rest is similar to the fi'l mudari. So, we read izhabi. Aisha, izhabi ila ad-dukan. We say, oh Aisha, go to the shop. Izhabi. Al-an for the domir antuma. Antuma, this is similar to antuma for muzakkar. So the process is similar. Antuma, this is antuma for muannas. Antuma tazhabani. We remove the ta, replace it with alif because you want to read the, because without this alif you are not able to read the word. And since this ends with alif and nun, you drop the nun. So the new word that you will get is idhaba. Idhaba. Yeah, idhaba. So idhaba, go, both of you. Aisha wa Fatima izhaba. Ya Aisha wa ya Fatima izhaba ila al-madrasa. Go to the school. And the last one is for the domir antunna. Antunna, all of you, female. Yeah. Ya Aisha wa ya Fatima wa ya Zainab. So all of you, the fi'l mudari is tadhabna. Yeah, fi'l mudari is tadhabna. Now, what is the fi'l amr? Again, as usual, remove the ta. And then, since the next letter start with the sukun, you replace it with an alif. Yeah. And what about the ending? Okay. For the rest of the verbs, for the rest of the domir, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, you have to change the ending. Yeah, tazhabu, zhab. Tazhabani, remove the nun, and anti, aidan, remove the nun, and also antun, antuma, you remove the nun. But for antunna, we do not remove anything. Yeah, for antunna, here it ends with nun. We do not remove the nun. Do not remove. We retain the nun. So what is the new verb? The new verb is now izhabna. 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 So this is the fi'l amar for the fi'l yazhabna. Sorry, not yazhabna, tazhabna. Now, izhabna, Aisha, Fatima, Zainab, izhabna. Izhabna ila al-masjid. So three of you go to the masjid. So this is the tasrif. Yeah, this is the tasrif for fi'l al-amri.